The Phantom Staircase, a Winchester Mystery House ghost story. Sarah arrives at the Winchester Mystery House, feeling a sense of unease as she approaches the grand old mansion. As she steps inside, she is greeted by the sight of strange and twisted architecture. Staircases lead to nowhere, doors open onto walls, and the layout of the house seems to make no sense. Sarah takes in her surroundings and feels like she is being watched, like someone or something is observing her every move. She brushes off the feeling and decides to start her investigation of the house. As she walks through the halls, she hears strange noises and sees shadowy figures darting around corners. Despite her fear, Sarah continues to explore the house. She begins to notice strange markings on the walls and floors, symbols that seem to be related to the occult. As she studies the symbols, she realizes that they are connected to the Winchester rifle and the deaths of innocent victims. As she continues to investigate, Sarah becomes increasingly convinced that the house is haunted by the ghosts of those killed by the Winchester rifle. She feels a sense of foreboding and knows that she is in over her head. But she also feels an urge to uncover the truth and bring justice to the innocent victims. With a deep breath, Sarah sets out to uncover the secrets of the Winchester Mystery House. As Sarah continues her exploration of the Winchester Mystery House, she begins to notice strange occurrences that she can't explain. Doors that she thought were closed suddenly open on their own, and she hears disembodied voices whispering in her ear. Despite her growing unease, Sarah presses on with her investigation. She discovers hidden passageways and secret rooms that are filled with occult artifacts and ancient tomes. She realizes that the owner of the house, Sarah Winchester, was deeply involved in the occult and may have even summoned a demon into the house. As she studies the artifacts and tomes, Sarah becomes increasingly convinced that something evil is lurking within the walls of the house. She can feel a dark energy pulsing through the house and knows that she must tread carefully. Sarah begins to realize that the house itself is a maze, intentionally designed to confuse and disorient anyone who enters it. She becomes lost in the maze of twisting hallways and hidden rooms, unable to find her way out. As she wanders through the house, Sarah hears a strange humming sound coming from one of the rooms. She cautiously approaches the room and peers inside, only to see a figure in a black cloak standing in the center of the room. Terrified, Sarah backs away, knowing that she has stumbled upon something that she was not meant to see. After her encounter with the figure in the black cloak, Sarah is more convinced than ever that the Winchester Mystery House is haunted by dark forces. She realizes that she needs to find a way out of the house before it's too late. As she continues to explore the house, Sarah comes across a staircase that seems to lead nowhere. She follows the staircase up and up, but it never seems to end. Eventually, she realizes that she has been walking up the same set of stairs over and over again, trapped in an endless loop. Feeling hopeless and trapped, Sarah begins to panic. She is lost in the maze of the Winchester Mystery House, and it seems that there is no escape. She begins to hear whispers and laughter coming from the shadows, and she knows that she is not alone. Just when Sarah thinks that all is lost, she hears a voice calling out to her. It is the voice of one of the ghostly victims of the Winchester rifle, and it is calling to her from beyond the grave. The voice leads Sarah to a hidden passage that she had not seen before. Sarah follows the passage and eventually finds herself outside of the house. She turns to look back at the Winchester Mystery House and sees the figure in the black cloak standing in one of the windows, watching her with glowing red eyes. She knows that she has escaped the house, but she also knows that the evil within it is still at large. Sarah decides to return to the Winchester Mystery House with a group of paranormal investigators. She hopes that their expertise will help her uncover the truth about the house's haunted history. As Sarah and the investigators explore the house, they begin to experience strange phenomena. Doors slam shut on their own, and they hear disembodied footsteps in the halls. The investigators set up their equipment and start to conduct an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon session. During the session, they hear the voice of a little girl speaking to them from beyond the grave. She tells them that she is one of the victims of the Winchester rifle and that she wants justice. The investigators record the girl's voice on their equipment. Suddenly, one of the investigators is thrown to the ground by an unseen force. Sarah rushes to help him, but she too is attacked by an invisible entity. The investigators scramble to escape the house, but they find that the doors are all locked. As they try to find a way out, they come across a room that is filled with Winchester rifles. The guns seem to be moving on their own, and the investigators realize that they are under attack by the vengeful spirits of the Winchester rifles' victims. Sarah and the investigators are trapped in the room with the haunted rifles. The guns are moving on their own, and it becomes clear that the spirits of the Winchester rifles' victims are trying to harm them. Sarah remembers a story she heard about how Sarah Winchester, the original owner of the house, was advised by a psychic to build a staircase to nowhere to confuse and trap the ghosts. She thinks that if they can find the staircase, it might offer them a way out. The group searches the room and eventually finds the staircase hidden behind a wall. As they climb the staircase, they realize that it is not actually leading anywhere, but instead seems to be taking them deeper into the house's mysterious dimensions. As they continue up the staircase, the group encounters more vengeful spirits. They see the ghosts of people killed by the Winchester rifle, and they hear their screams and cries for justice. The spirits seem to be growing more violent, and it becomes clear that Sarah and the investigators are in grave danger. Finally, they reach the top of the staircase and find themselves in a small room. The door is locked, but they see a faint light coming from under it. Sarah pushes the door open, and they step out into a completely different part of the house. The group realizes that they have stumbled upon one of the house's hidden rooms. It is a dusty and dilapidated room filled with old furniture and cobwebs. Suddenly, they hear a faint whispering coming from a corner of the room. As they move closer to investigate, they see a ghostly figure materialize before their eyes. It is the ghost of Sarah Winchester herself. She tells them that she has been trapped in the house for centuries, and that the ghosts of those killed by the Winchester rifle have been tormenting her. Sarah Winchester then reveals a shocking truth. She tells them that the rifles were cursed by a Native American shaman, and that the spirits of the victims will never rest until the curse is lifted. Sarah and the investigators realize that the only way to lift the curse is to destroy the cursed rifles. They search the room and finally find the rifles hidden in a corner. As they pick up the rifles, they hear the spirits of the victims crying out in agony. They then realize that they have to destroy the rifles in order to lift the curse. They take the rifles outside and burn them in a fire pit. As the rifles burn, they hear the spirits of the victims screaming in anguish, but then the screaming stops, and they know that the curse has been lifted. With the curse lifted, Sarah Winchester's ghost disappears, and the house suddenly feels peaceful. Sarah and the investigators make their way out of the house, finally free from the haunting and mysterious Winchester mystery house. As they walk through the halls of the house, they hear strange noises and feel the temperature dropping rapidly. They realize that they are not alone in the house, and something is following them. They decide to investigate and split up. As one of the investigators walks down a corridor, they see a figure standing in the shadows. The figure is dark and foreboding, and it disappears before they can get a good look at it. The investigator then hears footsteps coming from behind them, and they turn around to see the ghostly figure of a young girl. The girl's eyes are filled with fear, and she is beckoning the investigator to follow her. The investigator hesitantly follows the girl and finds themselves in a room filled with antique dolls. The dolls seem to be moving on their own, and the investigator hears the ghostly laughter of children. Suddenly, the dolls come to life and start attacking the investigator. The investigator screams for help, and the rest of the group rushes to their aid. Together, they manage to fend off the possessed dolls and escape the room. As they make their way out of the house, they hear the sound of ghostly laughter echoing through the halls. They realize that the spirits of the children who died in the house are still trapped and that they need to find a way to free them. The investigators gather together to discuss what they have seen and experienced in the house. They realize that the ghosts of the Winchester Mystery House are more powerful and malevolent than they had ever imagined. As they ponder their next move, they hear a loud banging coming from a nearby room. They cautiously approach the door, and as they open it, they are greeted by a ghostly apparition of Sarah Winchester herself. Sarah appears to be distraught and is muttering to herself. The investigators try to communicate with her, but she seems unable to hear or see them. They realize that she is trapped in some kind of time loop, reliving her past over and over again. As they continue to observe Sarah, they notice that her movements are synchronized with the strange clock in the corner of the room. They realize that the clock is the key to breaking the time loop and freeing Sarah from her eternal torment. The investigators work together to decipher the intricate mechanism of the clock and manage to stop it from ticking. Suddenly, Sarah's ghostly form begins to fade away, and the room is filled with a bright light. The investigators are left standing in an empty room, realizing that they have freed Sarah from her eternal torment. But they also realize that there are still other spirits trapped in the house, waiting to be set free. The investigators continue their exploration of the house, determined to free the remaining spirits that are trapped within its walls. They realize that they must find and activate the hidden mechanisms within the house to unlock the doors and staircases that lead nowhere. As they make their way through the labyrinthine structure, they come across a room that seems to be at the center of the house. The room is filled with strange contraptions and mechanisms, all designed to confuse and disorient anyone who enters. The investigators work together to decipher the purpose of each of the strange mechanisms and manage to activate them in the correct sequence. As they do so, they hear a loud click, and suddenly, a hidden door in the wall slides open. Beyond the door lies a long and winding staircase that seems to lead to nowhere. But as the investigators ascend the staircase, they realize that it is not a dead end after all. Instead, it leads to a secret room at the top of the house. In the center of the room lies a strange and intricate machine, which the investigators realize is the source of the strange power that holds the spirits of the Winchester Mystery House captive. They work together to deactivate the machine, and suddenly, the entire house begins to shake and shudder. As the dust settles, the investigators realize that they have succeeded in freeing the spirits from their eternal captivity. The house is no longer haunted, and the spirits can finally rest in peace. As Sarah walks towards the grand staircase, she hears a faint whisper in her ear. She stops in her tracks and looks around, but sees no one. Sarah's heart races as she tries to calm her nerves. She looks up at the grand staircase and sees that it is shrouded in darkness. She hesitates for a moment before starting up the stairs. As she ascends, she feels an eerie presence around her. She senses that she is not alone, but she sees no one. She continues up the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. As she nears the top of the stairs, she suddenly feels a cold breeze on her face. She looks up and sees the figure of a woman standing at the top of the stairs, shrouded in a misty haze. Sarah gasps in shock and takes a step back. The woman at the top of the stairs beckons to her, as if inviting her to come closer. Sarah's mind races as she tries to decide what to do. Sarah takes a deep breath and decides to approach the figure at the top of the stairs. As she nears the top, the figure disappears into the mist. Sarah is confused and scared. She looks around but sees nothing. Suddenly, the stairs begin to shake and tremble, causing Sarah to lose her balance and fall backward. As Sarah falls, she catches a glimpse of the figure again. This time, it appears to be moving towards her. She screams in terror as she tries to scramble to her feet and run down the stairs. But the staircase seems to have a life of its own. It starts to twist and turn, leading Sarah in circles and preventing her from escaping. She can feel the ghostly presence of the woman getting closer and closer. Sarah is in a state of panic and despair. She doesn't know how to escape the staircase or the ghostly figure. All she can do is scream and pray for help. But will anyone come to her aid in time? As the group searched for a way out, they stumbled upon a hidden door that seemed to blend in with the wall. It was a small door, barely noticeable, but it was there. It was locked, but with some effort, they managed to open it. Inside was a small room, barely big enough for all of them to fit. It was dark, but the light from their flashlights revealed a dusty old room with cobwebs everywhere. In the corner of the room, they found a strange object, a large wooden chest. As they approached the chest, they noticed that it was covered in strange symbols and markings. It seemed to be the source of the strange energy that they had been sensing throughout the house. As they opened the chest, they were hit with a strong, musty smell, and they found a collection of old rifles and bullets. They also found some documents and letters that revealed the chest belonged to Sarah Winchester herself. But as they continued to search, they found something else, something that made their blood run cold. There was a small, dusty photograph that showed a group of people, all of whom were holding rifles. Among them was a familiar face. It was the face of the ghostly figure they had seen earlier. As Emma walks through the maze of doors and staircases, she feels a sense of impending doom. Suddenly, she hears a faint whisper coming from behind a closed door. She cautiously approaches the door and puts her ear to it, trying to make out what the whisper is saying. It's a voice she recognizes, the ghost of Sarah Winchester. Sarah tells Emma that she must leave the house immediately, before it's too late. Emma pleads with Sarah to explain what she means, but Sarah is unable to provide any more information. Instead, she warns Emma of the danger that lurks in the house and begs her to leave. Emma tries to leave, but finds herself unable to find her way out. The doors and staircases seem to be shifting and changing, leading her in circles. She realizes that she's trapped, and the only way out is to confront the source of the haunting. With her heart racing, Emma bravely makes her way towards the center of the house, where she believes the source of the haunting lies. As she approaches, she sees a figure standing in the shadows, the ghost of William Winchester. He confronts her, accusing her of trespassing and threatening to harm her. Emma stands her ground, telling him that she won't leave until she uncovers the truth about what happened in the house. William begins to fade away, but not before revealing the truth. He killed the people who haunt the house, and Sarah Winchester built the strange architectural features as a way to confuse and trap his vengeful spirits. As he disappears, Emma realizes that she's finally found the answers she was searching for. Trembling but relieved, Emma finally finds her way out of the house and into the daylight. She looks back at the Winchester mystery house one last time, knowing that the ghosts will continue to haunt the house for years to come. As they were walking down the corridor, they heard a loud noise, and the door at the end of the hallway slowly creaked open. They hesitated for a moment, but then gathered their courage and walked towards the door. As they approached, they saw a figure standing in the doorway, its back turned to them. The figure was dressed in a long, flowing dress and had long hair that fell down its back. The group slowly approached the figure, trying to get a better look. As they got closer, they noticed that the figure was holding something in its hand, something that glinted in the moonlight. They hesitated, unsure of what to do, but then the figure turned around, and they saw its face. It was the face of Sarah Winchester, the owner of the Winchester Mystery House, who had died many years ago. She looked sad and scared, and tears were streaming down her face. The group felt a sudden chill run down their spines, and they realized that they were standing in the presence of a ghost. The group stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. They wanted to run, but their feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. The ghostly figure of Sarah Winchester slowly disappeared, and the door at the end of the hallway slammed shut. The group knew they had to get out of there, and they ran towards the stairs, trying to find their way out of the mysterious house. As Sarah reaches the end of the stairway, she finds herself in a large, dimly lit room. In the center of the room, she sees the ghostly figure of a man holding a rifle. It's the ghost of the Winchester rifle victim. Sarah can feel the man's anger and pain radiating from his spectral form. Suddenly, the ghost raises his rifle and takes aim at Sarah. She knows that she must act fast if she wants to survive. Remembering the words of the psychic, she pulls out the silver bullet and loads it into the shotgun. Just as the ghost is about to pull the trigger, Sarah fires the shotgun. The silver bullet strikes the ghost squarely in the chest, causing him to let out a blood-curdling scream. The ghost disappears, and the room is silent once more. Sarah stands there, breathing heavily, still holding the smoking shotgun. She knows that she has put an end to the Winchester Mystery House's curse. As she turns to leave the room, she sees the stairway that she had climbed to get there is now gone. In its place is a solid wall. With a shrug, Sarah makes her way back through the house, feeling a sense of relief that the ghosts are finally at rest. She knows that she will never forget her encounter with the spirits of the Winchester Mystery House, and she will always remember the lessons she learned during her adventure.